Welcome back to Saxon Math. This is lesson 50, decimal number line in tenths and dividing by a fraction. We can locate different kinds of numbers on the number line. We have learned to locate whole numbers, negative numbers, and fractions on the number line. We can also locate decimal numbers on the number line. So in this number line above, the distance between consecutive whole numbers has been divided into 10 equal lengths. Each length is 1/10 of the distance between consecutive whole numbers. The arrow is pointing to a mark 3 spaces beyond the 1, so it's pointing to 1 3/10. We can rename 3/10 as the decimal 3/10. So we can say the arrow is pointing to the mark representing 1 3/10. When a unit has been divided into 10 spaces, we normally use the decimal form instead of the fractional form to name the number represented by the mark. So for example, what decimal number is represented by the point y on this number line? So if you look at it, you can see that it's past the 7. So we know the whole value is 7. The decimal value would be how far it is from that point, from that 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We got to make sure we know that that's the numerator. 4 is the numerator, but what's the denominator? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 4/10. So 4/10 as a decimal looks like this, 4/10. So that is 7 4/10 is what the number represented on the number line y. So the distance from 7 and 8 has been divided into 10 smaller segments. Point y is 4 segments to the right of the whole number 7, so point y represents 7 4/10. We can write that decimal number as 7 4/10. The following question can be answered by dividing a decimal number or by dividing by a fraction. How many quarters are in $3? If we think of a quarter as a quarter of a dollar, we have this division problem. 3 divided by 1/4, or 3 divided by a quarter. We can solve this problem in 2 steps. First, we answer the question, how many quarters are in $1? The answer is the reciprocal of 1/4, which is 4/1, which equals 4. So 1 divided by 1/4 equals 4 divided by 1, which is the same as 4. For the second step, we use the answer to the question above to find the number of quarters in $3. There are 4 quarters in $1, and there are 3 times as many quarters in $3. We multiply 3 by 4 and find that there are 12 quarters in $3. So if you have 3 times 4, that equals 12. That's the number of quarters in $3. Let's review this. So the original problem was how many quarters are in $3? 3 divided by 1/4. Step 1, you find the number of quarters in $1. There are 4 of them. And then you would use the number of quarters in $1 to find the number of quarters in $3 simply by multiplying it by 3. Example 2, this row of pennies is 2 1/4 inches long. The diameter of a penny is 3/4 of an inch. How many pennies are needed to make a row of 6 inches long? So that looks like this. 6 divided by 3/4. We will take 2 steps. First, we'll find the number of pennies, the number of 3/4 inch segments in 1 inch. The number of 3/4 is 1. In 1 is the reciprocal of 3/4, which is 4/3. 1 divided by 3/4 equals 4/3. We will not convert 4/3 to the mixed number 1 and 1/3. Instead, we will use 4/3 in the second step of the solution. Since there are 4/3 pennies in 1 inch, there are 6 times as many in 6 inches. So we multiply 6 by 4/3. 6 times 4/3 equals 24, because 6 times 4 is 24, and 1 times 3 is 3, which is the same as 24 divided by 3 equaling 8. So we found that there are 8 pennies in a row, 6-inch row. You can review this here. How many 3/4 are in 6? Well, that would be the same as 6 divided by 3/4. That needs to be converted into this kind of a problem, 6 times the reciprocal. That's all you need to remember. It's multiply by the reciprocal. If it's divide by a fraction, you have to multiply by the reciprocal. Don't forget that. If it's divide by a fraction, you'll multiply by the reciprocal. All right, let's try these. So, to which decimal number is each arrow pointing? So for letter A, you should have answered 1/10, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 equal parts between 0 and 1, and A is at 1/10. What about letter B? You should have answered 5/10 for letter B, because it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away from the 0, and it's halfway between 0 and 1. How about letter C? Letter C would be 9/10, because it's the 9th one out of 10 equal parts in between 0 and 1. Letter D, you should have answered 1 and 2/10. Why is it 1 and 2/10? Because we're past the 1, and we are 1 2/10 beyond that. This is equally divided by 10 parts. Letter E, what's this position? This one should have been 1 and 6/10, because you're past the 1 again, but you're 6/10 away from the 1. Letter F should have been 1 and 8/10, because again, you're past the whole number 1, and you're 8 parts out of 10 equal parts past 1. So it's 1 and 8/10. Letter G, write and solve a division problem to find the number of quarters in $4. Use 1/4 instead of quarter, or 25/100ths for a quarter. Follow this pattern. Okay, let's say this is my problem. How many quarters are there in $8? This would be $8 divided by 1/4. This would be converted into $8 times 4/1. If I was to multiply that out, then I'd end up with 32/1, which equals 32 quarters. So if my problem again was how many quarters are there in $8, the answer would be 32 quarters. Everybody's problem should be different. Your answers will also be different if you have different numbers than I do. Everyone should have 1/4. Letter H, write and solve a fraction division problem for this question. Pads of writing paper were stacked 12 inches high on a shelf. The thickness of each pad was 3/8 of an inch. How many pads were in a 12-inch stack? So if you have 12 and it's divided into 3/8 of an inch, that looks like this. We can now convert this into 12 times the reciprocal. And 12 times the reciprocal is the same as this. I want to cross multiply here. Basically, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 4 times that would be 32 in this case. So each pad was 3/8 of an inch thick. There would actually be 32 pads in this 12-inch stack, because since every inch had at least one, it had 8/3 of the pads in an inch. So we'd have 32 pads for the final answer of this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.